Boom. Hey, what's up? It's another week, and it's the Dirty South podcast. Excited to be on here again with my homies, Brant Parsons, Jason Fulmore, Cabra, SC Wrestle. This week, it looks like the bookshelf is back in his space, so we're good and healthy. Now, before we get started, I do want to let everybody know out there in the public that the knockout is this weekend. We will be previewing it. We do have some special guests coming on in about 15 minutes, but try and get onto Ticketmaster and get your tickets prior to getting there. They're less expensive, first of all, if you buy them through Link. Second of all, you're not stuck in those big long lines, and you can get right into the wrestling rooms and see the tournament and watch all the great action. Um, with that being said, first of all, uh, first two questions: how was your weekend? Good to see you guys again. But that's more of a statement. And then second one is what went on this week in the Southeast?
Is it good to
Good.
see us? Was
Is-
that?
Always good to see you. Always good to see you.
Why don't we start with you, Brant? Because you seem a little like there's a lot going on down there.
I'll tell you, it's wonderful. At the same time, there's just so many events. I thought week one
There
was
are.
tough. Week two, even more events, lots of dual events, lots of great stuff out there. Um, I don't even know where to begin. I guess if we're talking about what happened last week, one, you can check out my rankings. They're up on the site now. CaboWrestling.com.
Finally.
There's some change. Yeah, finally it was Tuesday. I got them up Tuesday. It's Tuesday somewhere. No, it was Tuesday evening. I got him up last night. I think there's two things I wanted to make sure I talk about, and one of them is the duels, the Class 2A duels preview in Charlotte and Lake Gibson coming out on top. Uh, they're definitely a team we want to talk about from there. I know that it meant a lot to them because I heard from lots of people that it meant a lot to them that they felt disrespected by not being my number one duels team. They did win significantly. Somerset was missing three starters, but I think even by the point total, Lake Gibson probably still wins that one. That was a convincing win for the Braves. So we have to talk about Lake Gibson, and then I also don't want to not talk about Wellington, who finished second, who beat Somerset, who beat Charlotte, who beat Jensen Beach. Uh, Fantastic performance for them too. Kind of showing that there may be some dual teams from
Yeah,
Southeast Florida that aren't in Miami that are pretty
I
tough. I mean,
heard there
they've
was a
been tough,
great.
but like they're really tough now.
I heard there was a great match there with Mac Andrews and Eric Hodge that went to a 1-0
Yes,
sudden
there are
victory
a
or
lot
something
of
like
matches
that.
like that there. But yeah, Lake Gibson kind of listen. It's my own fault. Uh, I try to base it off on paper, but there's just something Lake Gibson does in duels, and they continue to show it, and they'll probably try and show it in January. They'll show it in January when it's all on the line. But they know how to wrestle. They know how to step it up when it comes to duels, like no other another team I've seen in Florida.
Well, the other thing that I think people need to keep in mind is that duels are the one situation where I believe as a coach, you can have a lot of impact on what the outcome is going to be because depending on who you have in the lineup or who you have available, you can move some people around, create
Yeah.
some matchups that really create the opportunity for points for you. And like, I mean, Danny Walker and the Lake Gibson crew, they do that. But I also want to make sure that we put over to the back of, in the background that just because this was the result today doesn't mean that this will
Correct.
be the result tomorrow or a month from now because lineups change, descent plans are happening, people might be at different weights, you might create a whole different kind of duel a month from now. So I think that that's important to keep in mind as
But
well.
a
Oh
stunning
yeah,
performance to dominate a
right.
duels tournament where everybody else is pretty even,
And
and they
obviously,
put themselves ahead.
we can't wait to see Tampa Jesuit in the mix, and those duels happen with all three of those teams, and it'll be fun to watch in 2A because there's some hammers. I mean, I was at Horizon uh, with our team this weekend, so a good little tournament. I think it's a great tournament for kids that are not great yet, right? It's a good tournament where you can get a lot of your new kids, your mid-level kids,
Mhm.
JV low varsity kids in the mix and get them a lot of matches. So uh, fun time there. But I got to say, there was a 106 at Boone, and the entire Boone team that looks like they're coached really well right now. Um, and
Love that.
there was a couple kids at I think it was Windermere. There was two kids that I really was impressed with. So yeah, there was some kids, and obviously, Freedom has these two young brothers that wrestle hard, and uh, for the level of kids I saw, those were something that stood out to me.
So Brant, the another thing that kind of happened, you were talking about the duels, but we got some kind of tickets punch, some district champions and those sorts of things. It's kind of exciting that,
It is.
we've got a few things kind of, happening in that path too.
We've got four district titles already given out. I don't know if it's the most shocking one, maybe by how they won Middleburg beating Lincoln
Mhm.
convincingly. Being on the horn with some Lincoln coaches beforehand, they're not full strength. Their football team was too good this year, but even then, Middleburg just picked, like you talked about it. You pick the right weights, you pick the right matchups, and they just did a fantastic job of getting guys in the right places and winning that. Um, a non-district duels tournament, but a match that needs to be talked about. I was not there for this, but I'm told the entire gym stopped and watched, and I had coaches telling me they had to yell at their coaches and athletes, "Hey, pay attention to ours." But Eric Bush, Brian Morales, wrestling at uh, the Johnny Rouse going into overtime, and Eric Bush, the transfer from Illinois, taking out the state champion at South Dade 10-8 in overtime, to where everybody in Haggerty was watching that match. And I'm sure there were some other big matches this weekend, but that's the one I had the most people tell me
That's the kid at
that you had
Riverdale,
to
right?
see
Is that
it.
what you said?
That's
The kid.
13.
It was at 13, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I tell you what, that's oh, but they're what A is Riverdale? 2A, 3A?
They're 2A. It doesn't have state impacts, but it was fun to watch for
Yeah,
the people there.
but that's awesome. No, I mean we saw that young man wrestle uh one of the Tran boys at Super
Yes, at
32. I mean,
Super 32, we watched that thing together.
yeah, I think we were sitting there watching it together. Yeah, kid's a good wrestler. But so is Tran. Um, but yeah, what
But
a
yeah, and
big
there's
win
some
there
there's
for
some there's some
Riverdale.
two district duels going on this week too, so we'll punch a few more tickets.
Very cool. Very cool.
Anything
Well,
exciting around Georgia, Bama, North Carolina, South Carolina? By the way,
yeah, so
Georgia. I said
there
Georgia.
was there there were so many different events. It's so hard to kind of hone in, and we're going to spend the vast majority of this conversation today talking with the college coaches for the knockout here in a few minutes, and then and then previewing kind of the knockout itself. By the way, everyone, I'm working on the media guide that I hope will be posted tonight, or well, it depends on when this is posted, but Wednesday night or Thursday, posting that, and it should give you a lot of information. I think right now we're still waiting on a few pieces of information,
Yeah.
but one of the things that stood out to me for the Southeast was up in, like I said last weekend, it was up in Tennessee, and that is McCallie won their tournament, which over Brentwood and Christian Brothers. McCallie is in the field for the knockout. Staunton River came over from Virginia, beat up a lot of people, West Virginia team, Pennsylvania teams, Tennessee teams, so on and so forth. They are in the knockout this weekend. They won the Indian Classic up in Tennessee. Cleveland beat Woodland in the finals of the duels at the Cleveland duels. But more importantly, they beat Social Circle 34-28 in the semifinals of those duels. And again, Social Circle is coming down from the state of Georgia to the knockout this coming weekend. So, we've got some really, really good teams who are performing really, really well at the moment that we get to see in
Yeah.
action
And
this
I
coming
wanted to
weekend.
ask you that. I know with Cleveland, obviously they do a great job up there. But we always hear about their girls team because their girls team is like all world. But the boys team ain't too shabby.
Well, the boys team won the knockout last year, so
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
no, they
So
it's really interesting. I think
and
if you
that's how good their girls are. That their boys are that good, but you don't talk about
you don't
them.
talk about them as much, yeah. Every state has it, right? Like, so if you come to the state of Florida, it's hard not to talk about South Dade. There's a lot of great teams. There's a lot of really good, different classifications, but they've won so much and so in the last few years. You go up to Georgia, you talk about Camden. Well, if you head to Tennessee, you talk about Cleveland. And until somebody kind of knocks those teams kind of from their perch, what they've done through, the 20 teens and the early 2020s, I mean, man, it's impressive. It's impressive to watch them compete. And yeah, it's
A
gonna be a
lot of
lot of fun.
a lot of history there. I know. I'm sure you've been to their gym. I was at their gym once, and when you
Yeah.
walk in that front door, it's like they have their own little Hall of Fame right there with all the trophies and the history and the plaques. It's pretty cool.
They do. They do. And I mean, it just goes to show you how much they value the sport at that school. And I think that's super cool. Joey Knox has built it. Josh Boskin has really done a great job with the girls team. And, you can say the same thing about teams in Florida and Georgia and Alabama and so on and so forth. And one of the things that's always fun to me is the rise of other teams. That's why I love to have conversations with Brant and you about like Florida, because I love to hear the next teams that are kind of ascending. They're building, and it's so much fun to kind of watch those teams get better and better. So
That's fun. Before we start, I see Coach Bono is in the waiting room, and I know we'll start to see more in there in a minute. Brand, anything other than the duels stick out to you this weekend? I know there wasn't too much excitement in
I mean,
Florida this weekend, but
there's a lot to stick out. I think the main thing, most people watching this know what the knockout is, but if you don't, um, it's the Knockout Christmas Classic. It's been going on. You probably know how many years they've done, Jason, more than I would. It's been moved to Silver Spurs the
well,
last few years because it got so big. 13 years, and that's what we're previewing. And they set out to create one of the best tournaments in the Southeast. They've done it, and every year it gets tougher and tougher. And so if you don't know what the knockout is, why are you watching us? But that's the tournament that we're going to be talking about. And this year we have the added fun of having 4 Division I college teams coming down to compete on
which is
another match,
unbelievable.
which is just insane in front of us. 4
yeah,
teams, 3 matches each, and you will be able to watch that, and people there will be able to see that and see that level of wrestling while everything else is going on. So you have some of the best
yeah,
wrestling you're going to see in high school, and then you're going to have the college level going on right next to you.
yeah. And here's two coaches that will be with us at the knockout this weekend, and Florida's own Chris Bono, West Virginia Tim Flynn, obviously Wisconsin Bono. Uh, and we should have Scotty and Obi come in here shortly. And guys, if you can hear us, thanks so much for jumping on with us. I know you guys are busy as heck.
Yeah, thanks for having us. Looking forward to getting down there.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know Jason and Brant, I'm sure they've got questions, but uh, kind of cool that this thing has grown to this down here, huh, Chris?
Yeah, very exciting. We need to be doing it more. Obviously, I've been a real big fan of trying to get Division I wrestling back down to Florida. So, this is the 3rd or 4th time I brought a team down to Florida to try to create some exposure. And what better way of doing it than doing it in front of a great high school tournament.
Yeah, you just recently, I think the last one you did was the River City Rumble or River City one up in Jacksonville, kind of your hometown. And then now you get to do it alongside the high schools at the knockout. Did you get together with Tribbett or Centis? And how did this kind of all come about?
This I think this started with Scotty trying to get it done. He does a really, really good job of thinking outside the box, and he's put his team in some wild events. And I'm kind of the same way, right? But we've tried to do a bunch of them, and after a while, you kind of almost like, man, you work so hard, you do so much, and you don't get any kind of traction with it. You kind of just start doing the same old, same old. But when Scotty mentioned it, would you bring a team to Florida? And yeah, of course. I would never say no to bringing a team to Florida. I've got so much to give back to that place, but I've also got a hidden agenda with really trying to, some point in my lifetime, seeing a Division I team down there.
We can't
Yeah,
wait.
it's
Yeah,
fun.
that's awesome.
Well, thanks for jumping on, Obi. We can't see you yet, but I know you're there. Uh, Coach Flynn, I saw the four teams, and obviously I understood the ties for three of the teams, and then I saw West Virginia and Coach Flynn. I'm like, how'd they sneak in there? It's great. We're so excited to have you come down here and do that. So thanks for taking the challenge on, but I imagine you're looking forward to it.
Yeah, the tie is it's cold in West Virginia and it's not in. So
that was my question. You're answering.
For years, like there's a lot of people that have tried to get duels going down south, and because the Midlands for years was the big tournament, and I remember when Coach Bono wrestled it. All these people wrestled, and Midlands was such a big thing, and it's always so doggone cold up there, and everyone's like, well, why don't we do something down south? And the Southern Scuffle came about, and now you have events like this. I think it's a great idea. We're gonna fly somewhere, so why not Florida?
Yeah. So, one of the things that we know from Florida, being from Florida, like this type of event is super important to kind of like what Coach Bono said, bringing kind of, exposure to the state and all those sorts of things. From a West Virginia perspective and coming down to get to duel Wisconsin and North Dakota State and Campbell, what are you kind of talking about with your kids as far as why this is so important to you guys in your program?
Well, there's a lot of reasons. One, we just came off a loss and we didn't really wrestle that well. And I think it's always important to, keep improving. But I think you have, different teams from different areas, different conferences, and, you might beat a guy from Campbell that's in a different conference and he does well. And, that helps your position trying to get to the NCAA tournament. So, I think from that standpoint, you got some teams that, maybe you don't normally hit as much. So, I really like that part of it.
Very cool.
Yeah, it does. Obi, thanks for jumping on here. And I know,
No problem.
first of all, Brant, we just keep talking right over you. Did you
Well,
have?
that's fine. No, you guys are doing a great job.
Obi,
I mean, the
man,
question to Obi would be along the lines of what Coach Flynn was talking about. We know your ties here, but how easy is it to get your guys to say, "Hey, we're going to Florida in December, and you guys want to come along and compete down there?"
Yeah, definitely. I think it's pretty easy. I mean, our guys will go anywhere and compete, but the fact that it's going to be probably 75, 80 degrees down there makes it really fun and exciting, especially heading into that Christmas time, right? And so, yeah, pretty easy. Our guys are excited, and I think it's good when you're doing something different. In the sport of wrestling, we sometimes get stuck on traditions, but I think we got to continue to explore different places. I think Texas is great at getting more out west or south and things like that. Just like more exposure for the sport, and being a Florida kid myself, I never had a chance to see college wrestling really in this capacity, and then I think the more those young athletes are able to see it, the more they could dream and try to achieve something like being an NCAA champion, All-American, or whatever, just being in the sport overall.
One of the things that stands out to me is you guys will have your team and you'll be focused on your duel and who you have across the mat from you and everything else. But for me, it's the average person sitting up in the stands. They're going to be able to watch 4 Division I programs compete against one another. They're going to watch the knockout finals kind of going on at the same time. Can you I know you guys are going to be focused on what you have in front of you, but can you kind of give me the perspective of what it might feel like to be a fan sitting up there and watching all this?
Yeah, I'll start. Well, I just hope the fans understand what's really going on. You know what I mean? When you're talking, 4 Division I wrestling programs, right? What if you had, these 4 Division I football programs at a football game. If you had West
Mhm.
Virginia playing Wisconsin and NDSU playing Campbell side by side in football, right? It would draw a heck of a crowd in Florida.
Mhm.
So hopefully that's kind of the mindset. You're looking at, 4 Division I wrestling programs, flying a pretty good way to come down there and compete, in a non-traditional wrestling state. Hopefully the fans really can see, and hopefully really the parents of some of these kids can actually
Mhm.
see what it takes to be a Division I athlete. I bet you I've had 40 emails and text messages from high school coaches and kids that are in this tournament saying, "Hey, take a look at me, take a look at me." Well, hopefully they get that. But no, it's a good thing, right? It's a good
Right.
thing.
Yeah, it's a great thing.
But hopefully these parents see, what Division I wrestling
Yeah,
is all about.
I was at I was doing a media day 2 days ago at a school over in Merritt Island, and one of the young men who's a senior said to me, "Oh man, I'm so excited to see West Virginia because years ago, one of his family members gave him an old throwback West Virginia singlet, and he's so excited to try to get it signed." So I told him, well, you let me know when you're there wrestling, and we'll make sure Coach Flynn and the boys get it signed for you. So he was so excited to see that you guys are coming. Obviously, Jason and I are spoiled. We get to see you guys at Fargo every year and do all that stuff. And obviously, with Chris being put into the Hall of Fame, at
I would,
2 of our Hall of Fame, we got to see you a lot down here. So
I
Hey, I
kind of want to
told you,
follow
man.
up.
it'll be fun.
Any excuse I get to come down there, I'm
And
there.
by the way, I did invite Scotty. I promise I did, and I sent him an email. He texted me this morning, so I don't know. I don't know where he's at, but
He's not still
hopefully,
waiting in the waiting room, is he?
no,
Okay.
I'm here. Well, he texted me earlier, said his phone was something was happening, so to email it to him. So I emailed it to him. But
I kind of
well,
wanted to follow up what Chris said, and I cover high school wrestling in Florida exclusively. So from a selfish standpoint, I'm excited that some of these kids will get to be seen by you guys, and you're going to be competing. But there are some of the top wrestlers in Florida in the Southeast. It's not a recruiting thing and all that, but you're still going to be able to get eyes on them. How cool is it, or how key is it for you guys to be able to just maybe see the kind of talent in the Southeast that maybe would take a little harder to see if they weren't happening in front of you? And you guys are going to get to see some of the best wrestlers, in the region this weekend.
Yeah, no, it's super exciting. I know for me, I didn't have an opportunity to compete at some of the biggest tournaments in high school. I think the first college coach that really started recruiting me was Russ Hellickson, and I was just happened to show up at some clinic he was running, right? And then he was like, "Well, you kind of can, wrestle a little bit," but that motivated me to continue to work hard and progress and be recruited. So obviously for us to see some of these athletes that might not get that exposure is really exciting, and hopefully we can motivate them by, hey, we're standing there watching this guy and
yeah,
getting the information, and then his buddies watching him, like, wow, their coach is asking about him, and they're like, hey man, that's the guy that's in my room, that's what I want, so I think the more you see it, the more you can understand it, and back to what you're talking about, the fans, before watching all these Division I teams compete, I think what it does is it creates growth, right? I think once you're in this, you see this year, as a fan, you're going to want to do it all the time, and then you want to grab a buddy, your old high school teammates or college teammates, whatever, right? Somebody, and say, hey man, there's college wrestling going on, let's go check it out. So hopefully, this is something that we could do, many years down the road. But what I
I
think it does
yeah,
is create growth.
yeah, I'd love to hear Tim. I'd love to hear Tim answer that same question because I know Coach Flynn, obviously coming in from West Virginia, Bono and Sentes and Blunt, we see you guys down here, yeah, as much as we can. And you guys, obviously, with homes and life down here, you get a chance to see these wrestlers. But Coach Flynn getting a chance to come down here from West Virginia and see what the Southeast has to offer. How awesome is that opportunity for you, Coach?
It's a real big opportunity, and there we always say there's good kids everywhere, and I mean obviously Obi and Chris, that two great wrestlers, and there's always good kids everywhere. So us being able to get down there and just see, have kids see us sometimes it's the darndest things that these kids latch on to. Maybe they like our singlet. Maybe they, I don't know. It doesn't matter, right? But they get to see us and we get to see them. So I'm excited about that. And, anytime we can go out and, you know, I guess represent our school in a positive fashion, it's good recruiting for us.
So, Coach, I'm gonna ask a selfish question because I don't know how many of the people in Florida or who will be in the stands will be watching, but I mean, you have some studs on your team. I mean, I've watched Ty Waters and Jordan Titus and a lot of others compete. Selfishly, are we going to get to see some of them compete this week?
You'll see a couple of them. I think one of them you might not. One's been kind of dinged up. So
okay.
Hey, that's not true, Coach. I thought we only invited you. We said you can only bring your JV squad to this. That was part of it. We didn't know you were bringing all your hammers. If you do, I might back out.
We're recruiting on campus. We need some guys.
Hey, Coach Obi, one of the things that I saw the other night and I was super excited about. So first, Aiden Bruneau, a Tennessee kid, has been in your lineup for the last little while. But Tayshawn Glover from North Carolina had a huge win the other night in one of your duels. Love to see the Southeast kids kind of make their way to North Dakota. Are we going to see some of those Southeast kids down here in the state of Florida competing this week?
Yeah. I mean, Tayshawn, he'll be down there competing, and we got a couple other guys redshirting and things like that. So you'll see some of those guys in at the Southern Scuffle. But yeah, no, we try to get those kids close to home. Any opportunity that we have, and hopefully we have a lot more in the future as well.
Yeah.
It's been great, Obi, seeing you take over the program the last couple of years and what you're doing up there, man. Congratulations.
So, Coach Bono, it's kind of the same question, if you don't mind me asking. Your 25-pounder is a hammer, and Rivera, you got a lot of hammers throughout the lineup. Will we see kind of some new faces in this week, or will we see kind of who you've been kind of had in the lineup the last couple of weeks?
Yeah, I don't know what's going to happen. We're bringing 18 guys, I think, with us. And we are super young, right? Our program kind of got decimated with all this portal stuff and all these things that are wrong in the sport going on last year. So I think we have 7 first-year starters in our starting lineup. And some of them are not really ready to go, or all those good things. So who knows? It'll depend on the matchup. Who we throw out there. Again, we got a lot of guys redshirting too, but we're allowed to wrestle them. So we're going to travel 18 guys, and we're our two of our best guys are redshirting that are going to be juniors. In Amos and Zargo.
Braxton, yeah.
So those guys won't make the trip, and we can't wrestle those guys. But yeah, we've some of our young guys are starting to figure things out, and they're wrestling a lot better than they did at the beginning of the year. So we'll have our guys out there, that give us the best chance to win, and we'll see where that takes us.
And Coach Bono, I know that you're on a time crunch, so whenever you got to get off, just let us know. No rush, but I know that you had mentioned some time things. But yeah, we're excited, and we really hope that that our kids and our parents show up for this, because it'll be good for us. I mean, was it last year or the year before that was it you and Cornell?
No, that wasn't us. That was Ohio State and Cornell, I think. We're
you
down
guys
there.
were up in Jacksonville, right?
And it was a very, very successful event, man.
It was.
We sold that place out, and it was just super expensive. We were kind of the host school. We kind of ran everything and paid everybody and rented the facility. And even with everybody showing up, man, there was a ton of money lost, but it was well worth it. We put on a show in front of Jacksonville University, who there was some interest maybe in talking to their athletic director about starting a program. So that's why we did it there, and people showed up. It was an awesome event. And it's just, we need help running these things. And that's why I like doing what we're doing, right? We're partnering up with, this high school tournament, and Coach Tribbett's done a great job where we're just paying for what we usually pay for. I don't have to worry about the referees and the rent in the building and concession takers and all that kind of good stuff. So it's going to be nice just to show up and wrestle. And, I think everybody's happy with that. Not that one in Jacksonville was a lot of work for me, and the organizers and my brother. And, it was a great show. I think the people showed up. So.
Yeah, it's
Well,
awesome. And
I'd say, guys, I probably let you guys get back to what you need to do to get ready. But just, if there's anything else that you had final to say about coming down and what people should expect and why they should buy tickets on Ticketmaster and get there early on Friday and Saturday.
Well, I'll tell you what, and I can probably speak for all these other coaches because everybody coming down is these guys are all great. But the thing that's great is to be around these kids, right? And if they want an autograph or if they want to talk to anybody, right? That's what hopefully they understand. They can come up to us and do those things. There's a lot of recruiting rules and not taking pictures and all that kind of stuff. But man, I think these kids, once they interact with all of our teams and their coaches and their kids, they're going to see that we're normal people and that the kids are normal guys and they all have a story to tell. I'm sure someone on every one of these teams has come from somewhere maybe they shouldn't have come from and have made it onto this team and have done that. So I think that's like the message this week is, these kids from Florida, they can do it. They can make it in a wrestling world in college. And I think that if they got to know some of these guys on, each one of these 4 teams that maybe haven't had a great high school career or came from somewhere, it's not a traditional place. There is a spot for them somewhere on a team, and they just got to stick with it and find the right opportunity.
yeah, well, let's go around the room, Coach Flynn.
Yeah, I hope that I just hope that we show up and compete well. I'm really focused on our team right now. Like I said, we didn't really have a good performance the last time out, so we'd really like to show a exciting brand of wrestling to make Florida kids want to come to West Virginia. So that, like I said earlier, I think every time we go anywhere, it's an opportunity to show ourselves and how we want our kids to compete and how they represent the school. And obviously it's cool as well for us to see some of the better kids in Florida compete. So I'm excited about that, to see a couple of those guys, hopefully find some guys that can wrestle for us. But I'm just really excited about our team. And, we had a long talk after our last duel. And I think, hopefully we're going to, wrestle a lot different the next time out.
Awesome. Obi.
There, couldn't find a
Yeah.
button. Yeah, echoing some of the same things. I mean, a lot of excitement. I'm excited. Our kids are excited. Hopefully, the fans are excited. I think that's good whenever there's excitement around anything, right? It's a good thing, right? And people want that. It's good for our sport. And then the other part is what I said about before. Just I don't think it matters where you're from. It's just gaining an understanding. I think some of those kids, they get to see like, hey man, this is how hard I'm supposed to hand fight. This is how hard I'm supposed to attack and wrestle through, chain wrestle, things of that nature. I think once some of those kids see that, what that level of competition looks like, I think they'll make the adjustments. Those that want to, they'll make the adjustments to put themselves in that realm. And so that's what I'm excited about is for kids to see what does it actually really look like and get a gauge, for wanting to be a Division I athlete. So, just a lot of opportunities for those student athletes just to see it, man, at the highest level. And I think it's going to be a treat for all of us.
I agree with what you said because my wife went with us up to the throwdown up on the Yorktown, and she was sitting there. I have a younger one in college now, Division III, but she was sitting there watching the kids wrestle, and she came back and she told our son a couple things that she saw, and she was like, you really need this and this and this, and I see what you. So it was cool to see that happen. So I think you're 100%. There's going to be parents and kids that go, wow, I've been told that before, but now I see it. And maybe that'll get them into the gym or get them into the wrestling room one more day a week or 1 hour a week. And That's awesome. But hopefully Scotty jumps on at some point. I know his phone went dead. He texted, as you guys saw in the group earlier, that his phone was dead to email him, and I emailed him twice. Uh, yeah, we all
Well,
love Scotty.
Yeah.
Hopefully he jumps on at some point. But
gentlemen,
yeah,
I
thanks
think
so
we
much,
want to.
guys.
Yeah, I think we want to say first, thank you for coming down and being part of it. I think it's going to be an absolutely wonderful experience for everyone in the building, for especially for the parents and the high school students and those sorts of things to watch your teams compete. And we want to wish you the best of luck and safe travels on your way down. And we can't wait to watch all your teams compete. It's gonna be great.
excited for it. Excited
Thanks.
for it.
Thank you. Take care.
See you guys.
Bye-bye.
Well, that was a very, very cool treat. And as I said,
That was awesome, man.
That's
That was
pretty
cool.
so awesome. Yeah, so awesome. And I hope Scotty sneaks in here while we're previewing the knockout, and we could always shoot the bull with him. I did email him, twice, because he did text earlier that he was having problems with his phone. But
Let's
No
talk
worries.
knockout. Let's talk knockout. High school knockout.
let's talk knockout. So I know, obviously, Brant and Jason, you guys always preview these things pretty in depth. Jason is going a little extra
Jason's
step
doing
with,
the real work, and I'll tell you, in my mind, I have had like these visions of doing things like this, and I could never quite get it to come out. And I've seen a peek of one of the media guides, and they are better than I even had in my mind of what is possible.
Thank you.
And just so well done and so well put together, and it looks classy, and it also has information, and just fantastic work. And
Well,
people
one of the
should be
things
excited to see it when they get a chance.
Thank you. I think one of the things that we need to embrace as a community is the fact that we need to celebrate, all this history we have. And the knockout on the boys' side has now quite a bit of history. We've had 3 4-time knockout champs. We've had, a Matthew Singleton, who was a 3-time and then lost to one of the 4-timers his freshman year. Otherwise, he would have been a 4-timer. And what's interesting about it is these are individuals, we were just talking with the coaches, these are individuals who have gone on. Your 3-timers, right, or your 4-timers are Caleb Penson, an NCAA champion, right, last year, Malik Hines, a 4-time NCAA qualifier at Lehigh, and Sawyer Bartelt, who's a freshman at Iowa State, who's looking to break into the lineup there just last year when he won his 4th. So, this is the top level. I mean, I say it all the time, right? Winning a state title is your goal. It is what you want to do. It's what you remember and all these sorts of things. But the event itself, this is a combination. I just did 120, I think, for the boys on the media guide. There are at least 16 state champions that are right now, registered to be in the bracket.
Yeah,
that is crazy. It is crazy how
you're gonna have
the
state
level of
champions
competition
going
is.
like 1 and 2.
That's
2 and
right.
2. Like,
yes,
well,
they're gonna win.
you know,
They're gonna win a state title in March, and they're not going to make it to day 2 here, or maybe even late on day 1.
as you speak, the boys group has grown their history over the last 13 years. But the girls are starting to. You've had one 3-timer, and Maya Bethel has a chance this year to become the second 3-timer. Right?
although she's not going to wrestle.
He's not going to be there.
But yeah, I mean, and you're starting to see some girls could become 2-timers. Obviously, some 2-timers are already off to college with Brielle and Gabby Sophie's out. But the girls are starting to make some history of their own, right?
Oh yeah, I mean, and I think
you're
that,
seeing the depth of you can attest to this, Jason. You're seeing the depth of the Southeast bringing more and more girls' talent down. I mean, there's one weight class. There's 3 state champs from other states coming here to wrestle, and that's where the knockout girls has just exponentially evolved from even 2-3 years ago when it was, the best in Florida and maybe a girl or 2 from out of state. I mean, there's so many coming now.
Well, and I don't know if you guys if you noticed this, right? But you have your Southeast girls who, Elle Kaufman from Lovett, who was a state champ from Georgia, Brianna Higgins from Georgia coming down. She's going to compete. You got Alabama Enterprise High School's bringing all four of their girls are state champions last year. But we also, one of the things that's really North Carolina Seaforth High School, Kira Rosenmarkel is in the lineup. That's going to be great to watch her compete. But one of the things that's really interesting is we have Hillcrest, California.
Yeah.
We have Troy Buchanan in Missouri. Troy Buchanan in Missouri has a little 100-pounder, Zoe Haney, who is a Missouri state champion, who I think is ranked number 11 in the country. So, I mean, man, that is so awesome to just look at the level of competition. And then, let's turn it back to Florida. And you've got what? Flagler Palm Coast, Hernando, Freedom, Sun Lake, South Dade. I mean, you have the best teams in the state of Florida who will be there. You sprinkle in all these other individuals from these other schools and states outside of the state of Florida, and you are going to have yourself a banger of a tournament.
I'm looking at 105 and I'm looking at 115.
Couldn't tell if he was frozen or not.
And there's a lot of red on your guide, and red means state qualifier, state placer, state champ. Mm-hmm. And there's a lot of red in those weight classes, man. And then as Brant said, 120, girls 120 at the knockout this year. Wow.
Yeah, I think, you think 120 is the best weight?
I think it was 135.
You think it's 135?
You've got Samantha Patton from Cook, Georgia state champ. You have Evelyn Holmes Smith from Enterprise state champ. Marigona Lau from Glenn Academy state champ, won the knockout last year. Anna Villar from Flagler, who's number one right now in Florida. She was third last year at the knockout. I mean, just probably 4 state champs possibly there. When the year's done and they're in that bracket. That was the one that stood out to me the most. 110 stands out to me for Florida.
110 stands out to you for Florida, no
really
doubt.
Interesting to see.
105 too. Jeez.
Yeah.
With Mia Parker, Randolph Rizzuto, Van Eden, Elliott Johnson, Herb. I mean, and then there's girls that are going to be state qualifier, state placers this year that are in that list, I think.
Now, I want to go ahead and make sure that we have a caveat. So they're looking at the media guide.
Yes.
That I just
they may
put
not
together,
be there.
But they may not, right. So
correct.
I will tell you that I've been looking at the change in weights over the last 3 days, and it has changed dramatically, both on the boys and the girls side. So we've had people added. We've had people moved to different weights. We've had all different things. This is what we think it will look like. Correct. Until they weigh in and actually we set the brackets and everything else. We don't know. This is all speculation.
Yeah. But speculating, those are the weight classes that stand out to us. Yeah. Now I haven't seen the boys one yet. I know we've texted a few times on it, and I've asked you some of the tough weights, and the 150 was one that has stood out to you on the boys' side. Can you talk a little bit about? I think it was 150. You sent that.
No, you're right. Yeah. No, I mean 150 is stupid good. I mean, and that's just the way it is. So, I mean, if you look at 150, you have, I'll start at the top, right? You have Bo Hickman out of Tuttle, Oklahoma. You've got Noah Nininger out of Staunton River, Virginia. And you have Logan Paradise out of Colquitt County in Georgia. Okay. 3 absolute studs outside of the state of Florida, all ranked in the top 15 at the weight nationally. Okay. Multiple time state champions, so on and so forth, everything else. And then you go down the list of the kids who are listed from the state of Florida, like a Gavin Nolan,
3-time state champ.
Yep. 3-time state champ. You've got an Oklahoma State runner-up in Grant Rowe out of Blackwell, Oklahoma. You got Nicholas Blake, who almost shocked everybody last year in the knockout finals, taking Gorman to his back with a cradle.
Yep. I'm
telling you right now, Nicholas Blake, Mason Basil, these individuals are going to come and compete. They're they're not willing to give up the knockout title to somebody from out of state just because those three happen to be absolute hammers. So, 150 is probably at the top level, like, I mean, nationally ranked kids. But what I said before, and I don't know if we said it online or when we were talking or beforehand, but 120 or so, I think is absolutely stacked. 126 is absolutely stacked. We just have some absolute studs that,
Yeah.
One of the things that's actually really interesting is we have three that are returning knockout champs. And two of those returning knockout champs could be in the same weight class. And that is Antonio Mills and Giovanni Solis.
Oh, please make that happen.
Ooh, please make that happen. Yes. Yes.
If anyone is
us,
listening that has any
yes.
influence over that, please make sure that
Please
you're in
make-
the same weight.
Yeah, for us as fans, right? Oh, yes.
Oh
So
my.
Mills beat De Janeiro last year, right,
Yes.
to win. Solis beat Max Brady in the semis, I think, and then beat Tanner Spalding, who is now at Air Force Academy, in the finals last year. So, I mean, and we could go down a whole list of other names to include, but man, I'll tell you what, and De Janeiro's back at 26.
Yes.
He's obviously going to be in the mix as far as trying to make another run for a title because he won it 2 years ago. So it's gonna be a lot of fun. And then there's another person who returns to the state of Florida after spending a little bit of time in Pennsylvania, and that's Lincoln Sledge-Sadowski.
Who, listen, there was a point where he was one of the best in the country, and if he's on track or he's even close to being himself, people are going.
And he'll be right around that weight too. I mean, it's gonna be awesome, dude.
I have a question for you guys. We obviously know who the elite are. We know who we see coming. Obviously, we know who we see coming. Are there any boys or girls that you guys are looking at that if they end up on the podium, you'll be like, wow, that was a good run?
That's a great question, Dan. Do you have somebody off the top of your head in Florida, or a couple of people off the top of your head in Florida, or do you want me to go first?
I'll let you go first because I mean you've seen the boys' entries. I haven't seen them all or any of them yet. But
Okay.
the Winter Springs kid, 2 years ago, seeded 8th and came out and won it. So I guess we're thinking something like that, like a kid who may not be expected to be there, but is good enough to be in the mix is probably what he's asking. Elijah Penton.
Oh yeah, Penton, yeah.
Or is unseeded or seeded 8th or 9th, whatever it was.
Yeah.
And just stormed through the tournament and not.
I think he was seeded 9th, yeah, and it became the lowest seed to ever, to ever do that. Another Florida kid that I watched last year at the state tournament, who he's going to be at a tough weight, but it's Robert Twilley out of Flagler Palm Coast. I was really impressed with him. That's a tough weight. He's going to be at 26 or so, but he is the type of kid who I think has the ability to surprise a lot of people. He's a state placer. He was 6th last year, but I'll tell you what, you get to the round of 32, the round of 16, you better have your head on a swivel because there are going to be some wrestlers in there who can kind of go out and beat anybody.
Have we heard if Tovar is going to be there? Anybody heard of
Giovanni Tovar?
Yep.
I have him down at 120 pounds.
Oh, wow. But that's where you're saying wow at 120, huh?
Yeah,
that thing is loaded, huh?
Yeah, so I'll give you a quick idea. So and I'm just going to name some names here. Sorry. So at 120, let's see here. Sorry. The fans guide is like I don't know, 50 pages long. So
yeah, that's
all right. So you've got Loudon Wolf out of Blackwell, Oklahoma, state champ. Bradley Patterson out of Camden, ranked number 3 in the country, state champ. Chris Phillips out of Georgia, Central Carroll, state champ. Jake Austin out of Charlotte, state champ. Tyson Daniels out of Cook in Georgia is a state placer. Barrett Clayton Jefferson is a state placer. Malachi Ortiz is at the weight state champ.
State champ.
Keegan Messina wasn't on the state podium, but was second last year here at the knockout. I mean, he's at the weight. Axel Ritchie was a state placer in the state of Tennessee, but also on the podium last year at the knockout from McCallie. Giovanni Tovar. You've got, let's see, Cohen Hargrove, Georgia state champ. You've got Van Cleve, Mississippi. Quentin Carroll is a state champ. You've got, I mean, I could go on and on and on. The whole list,
those
almost everybody
kids.
is red. I mean, they've been on the podium somewhere.
Yeah, and I was going to say, and I haven't seen who's there, who's not there, but that kid Ethan Tran at Mater Lakes can wrestle, and it wouldn't surprise me if we saw him make it late in the tournament or knock off a big name.
So Ethan Tran right now is listed at 126.
Yeah, he's a tough out.
You know,
And,
one of the things that
would
stood out
surprise
to me is there are kids who will, especially kids in the state of Georgia, who will wrestle at a lighter weight here than they wrestle in the state tournament in Georgia.
I know of at least one wrestler who will wrestle at a lighter weight here than he's going to compete in the state series.
Yeah, I mean, that just goes to show you
that's that important.
It is, and you know what? It is now elevated in importance. Look, last year or 2 years ago, I'm talking to Tony Ramos, University of North Carolina assistant coach, who's down. Ben Bennett, who was the assistant coach at Central Michigan, who's now the head coach at Central Michigan, who's down recruiting. You know, ended up picking up Luke Cochran out of Georgia and Andrew Austin out of Charlotte. You know, they're both up there or were up there. But now you don't have just coaches in the building watching. You have coaches in the building who are actually coaching their own kids and watching. So, and I'll tell you what, this is your opportunity. It's all in front of you to go out and
that
show.
semifinal round, they won't be competing yet.
That's
So
right.
that semifinal round is going to have the most NCAA eyes on it because they don't start wrestling until 1:00. And you know they're going to venture over there to see some of that action. It's going to be just an incredible semifinal round.
And I tell you what, and we hear it all the time in Fargo. Obviously, winning gets you looks by these coaches, right? But they're not just looking for that. They're looking for your attitude, how you handle yourself, how you carry yourself. Do you wrestle at a high level? Do you wrestle tough? Did you break during the match, or did you wrestle through the whistle? I mean, all these things they're looking at. So
how you win, how you lose.
Yep.
So you may go out and lose a match, but this coach might still come up to you and go, "Hey, wow, I'm interested because of how you handled yourself through the match, how you wrestled through the whistle," and they can see things about you that they feel they can work on. So
yeah. So to echo what you're saying is there were two things that stood out to me when I did the interviews with the coaches when we were talking. And that is Tony Ramos said, when you walk off the mat and you collect yourself and that sort of thing, whether you won or you lost, are you the type of person who went back to the bench and cheered on your teammates or not? Okay. That was important to him, personally. And then Lee Roper, who's assistant coach at Northern Iowa, said, I'm less concerned about a win and a loss, right? I'm not as worried about whether you won or you lost. I want to see you go out and compete. I want to see you go out there, put your foot on the line, toe the line, and see. You might be up against somebody who is better than you. I'm not worried about it. I'll get you better. I will mold you into that level. But are you the type of person who's willing to step up and really go after something? And I'll tell you what, I mean, we were just talking, Chris Bono was an absolutely fantastic wrestler in the state of Florida back in the 1980s, early 1990s. Obi was a fantastic wrestler as well, but Obi grew into an unbelievably great wrestler after he left high school. So this isn't the ceiling, right? This is where these coaches are looking for where are you now and where can I take you? So if I'm
Yeah.
kind of trying to talk to the kids that are going to compete, keep that in mind. Don't get all butterflies. Just go out and do your thing.
It's true. I mean, all the coaches we've talked to and interviewed, and especially you and I, when we go to Fargo and we see 200 coaches in the room, and maybe that's on the low side. Um, I've never had one of them, like when I ask, "Hey, what are you guys looking for?" They never looked at me and said, "I'm looking for the kid that wins all the time." That's they never said that to me, right? They've always said,
Well, the Brands
like,
or Kale Sanderson might be saying that, but I don't
Some of
know if
them
anybody
right.
else is.
But
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 I
like
don't know. I
99,
don't know.
the 99.2% others are not.
this is what and this is pretty much throughout recruiting and sports and what you look for, and it's something I notice. And if you have um, two guys who are equal, you're going to pick the guy who, when he's not wrestling, he's in the corner helping a young guy or cheering hard for his teammate. You're going to
Right.
pick the guy that wins with class or loses without throwing a fit. I know it's not always an easy thing to do. I certainly threw my fits losing growing up.
Yeah.
But that's when it's a tiebreaker. Yeah, the big brands are going to take your champs, and they have they have a little bit of inventory where they can do that and maybe miss or something. But most of these schools, they're looking for the guy that is good, but one that they know is going to make their room better, not just on the mat, but as a better family community team. And that's the behavior here that means just as much. I know we keep saying it, but it means just as much as what you do on the mat is what you're doing the other 4 hours that these coaches are watching, because
And
they're
for
watching those things just as much.
yeah, and
Yeah,
for
they
you
are.
younger kids, for your underclassmen that think, well, they're not going to look at me now because I'm not an 11th grader. I'm not whatever.
They'll remember.
They'll remember you.
They'll
So,
note it.
they'll take your name and put it in their little black book and
Yep.
keep an eye on you. So
People sell black books
get your name on there. I'm sorry.
on their
On
notes file on
their
their
notes
phone.
file, right? On their notes file. Well, I'm sorry that
Oh,
we didn't
hey,
get.
you know what? Coach
we-
sent this. It's okay.
Yeah.
I mean, it is what it is.
Yeah, I'm sorry we
I'm
didn't
sure
get
he
him on
misses
here,
the
and I'm
because
sure he's busy.
I do believe that Coach Sentis was one of the driving forces of trying to bring this event, the college coaches and the college down to the knockout and everything else. But look, for those of you who have been here before, right?
Yeah.
You're gonna get the knockout plus.
Mhm.
Okay, you're gonna get the typical knockout in terms of the quality of competition, the people in the room, like I don't know if the stage will be set up. I don't know what the setup will actually look like or anything along those lines, but you're going to get an absolute wonderful event to watch from a spectator's perspective. And you're going to get the colleges and get to watch that as well. All right. So for those of you who have been here before, that's what you're going to get. For those of you that are brand new, you're probably going to get a bit of chaos.
Yeah.
And I mean, I'm just telling you that because if you've ever been to a large event before, there is a lot going on. There is a lot of mats. There's a lot wrestling. There's a lot of whistles. There's a lot going on the floor, everywhere, and everything else. And as you go on, it slowly gets smaller and smaller into kind of a more, I don't know, ability to kind of wrap your head around what's happening. But I'm telling you what, stick around. Even if you go 0-2, stick around. Watch Saturday, because Saturday is going to be unbelievably great.
Yeah, and I
Best day
feel
of
like
wrestling in this state, Saturday.
to all the
Absolutely.
high school coaches
Absolutely.
that are going to be there with their teams, you guys should really, I don't want to say forcing, because forcing is a little excessive, but you guys should really be encouraging your kids to stay,
Or forcing
uh,
them. I'm fine with
or forcing them. Yeah. But also, you guys knew that we were having college duels. They've been talking about this. So to use the excuse, well, our bus has to leave early, I don't know if that's a great excuse, because you could have set this up to leave a
It's
little bit
Christmas
later.
time. I get it, but
Yes,
hopefully
you could have
people
made
realize
arrangements.
the opportunity that's being presented here on both the high school and college level. I talk to coaches all the time. They bring their kids to the state tournament when they don't qualify, so they can see what it's like. This is like that next level. And
Right.
if you're a kid that wants to get to that next level, this is your chance. to see it in Florida, not just the college level, the high school level, and there will be people that will stick around because that's where they're going to learn what it takes. And
Yeah.
they may not be there long Friday, but if they stick around and watch Saturday, maybe next year.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think so. Well,
And I'm looking forward to seeing you guys out there, right?
Yeah,
yes.
yeah. Well, I mean, I'm leaving today to head to Central Florida, so I will be in town very early. But
Yes, and I'll be there periodically. I've got I do have employees that are going to be there. They'll have the ward shirt on. We'll have podium pictures being taken. We'll have the black mat set up next to it. I am working on getting my photo booth together so we can set up the photo booth so kids could have fun in front of that while they're there. We will have a young man running around. I'll have a young lady covering the podium, and we'll just and you guys will be taking pictures as well. So I'm sure as a group, we'll make sure we get as much coverage as we can for this thing, and go
so
from there.
one of the last things I want to say is, as far as the media guide goes, I'm gonna send. It's actually gonna sit in a Google Drive, and it's free. I didn't want to charge for it. I'm still trying to kind of figure out some kinks and that sort of thing. I want you guys to go and look at it and tell me what you think about it and everything else. And I'm going to send the link to the Google Drive to Brant, if Brant will put it on Cabra
Absolutely.
and that sort of thing. To Dan, if
Yeah. Oh, you look so sexy when you freeze. Both of you froze at the same time. You guys, wow, this is what they look like when they're frozen, everybody. Um, Really cool thing to watch. And, maybe here in a moment they'll come to life for us. But right now, that's what they had. Well, if we hear from Scotty later on, we'll try and maybe bring him to you. If not,